Ever bought something old without knowing its story? In Mendoza, Argentina, a woman did just that. She found a beautiful antique mirror at a roadside stall. For a week, it was just a mirror. But one morning, as she brushed her hair, she froze. Her reflection wasn't moving. It just stood there, still. Then, slowly, its hand lifted and pointed. It pointed behind her. She turned. Nothing was there, but the reflection kept pointing, its fingers steady, aimed at the empty room. The days that followed were filled with tiny, impossibile moments. Her reflection would blink a second too late. It would smile when she wasn't smiling. It would seem to step closer to the glass even as she stood perfectly still. The unease grew into a quiet dread. One night, she decided she had to know what was happening. She set up a camera to film herself sleeping in front of the mirror. The footage was mostly still, just the soft rise and fall of her breathing. But then, at 3:11 a.m., something changed. Her reflection woke up first. It sat up in the bed, its eyes wide open in the dark. It leaned forward, pressing its face against the glass until its skin distorted. Its features flattened against the surface. The room's audio picked up a whisper, a sound so guttural it shook the microphone. She is watching from the other side. The next morning, the woman was gone. Police found her room empty, the mirror lying face down on the floor, shattered into 1,000 pieces. But as investigators examined the shards, they saw it. Trapped inside each fractured piece of glass was a reflection of the woman, her mouth open in a silent, unending scream. Far away, in the Himalayas of Nepal, a mountaineering team was documenting something even more unbelievable. A mountain was vanishing, not collapsing into rubble, not shrouded by fog. It was simply disappearing. Their drone captured the first event. A perfectly clear, sunlit mountain face began to dissolve, grain by grain, into the thin air. It was like watching a photograph being erased, pixel by pixel. Then their radio started to crackle. First static, then faint whispering, then the sound of breathing that wasn't their own. A calm, detached voice repeated a phrase over and over. Less weight, less shape. The team decided to camp overnight, determined to study this impossible anomaly. At 2:54 a.m., the ground shook so violently it threw them from their sleeping bags, but their seismic instruments recorded nothing. No earthquake, no tremor, just a violent, localized shaking. When they looked up, they saw it. The entire mountain was sinking, not into the earth, but downward, as if being pulled behind an invisible curtain. It was receding from reality itself. As the mountain sank past its halfway point, its silhouette became translucent. The climbers could see the stars shining straight through it. Then, one of them screamed and pointed. Inside the fading mountain, a shape was standing. It was a colossal entity, taller than the highest peaks, made of bending, impossible angles and limbs that defied geometry. As the last of the mountain dissolved into nothing, the entity slowly turned its head, its gaze falling directly on the terrified team. The last thing the drone recorded was a single, clear word that filled the audio with overwhelming bass. Remove. By morning, there was nothing left but a circle of perfectly smooth, flat ground where a mountain had stood for millennia. The maps were now wrong. Meanwhile, in Johannesburg, South Africa, a different kind of strangeness was unfolding. People across the city started reporting a bizarre phenomenon. Buildings were casting two shadows at sunset. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light, but soon everyone noticed it. Cars, trees, people, everything cast a second shadow, slightly offset from the first, lagging behind by 2 or 3 seconds. Scientists dismissed it as a rare, atmospheric illusion. They were wrong. The second shadows began to act on their own. They would move before the person they belonged to moved. They would stretch into impossibly long, thin shapes, or climb up walls, while their owners stood perfectly still on the ground. Witnesses saw them gathering in silent groups at intersections, their dark forms pointing at people passing by. One child told his parents his shadow was whispering to him. Security footage confirmed the impossible. The second shadows would sometimes keep walking after a person had stopped, only catching up a moment later. Then, one night, Every single second shadow in the city disappeared at once. The following day, the news broke. 1,143 people had vanished from their homes, their cars, their workplaces. Security cameras across Johannesburg showed the same chilling sequence for each disappearance. The person's second shadow would detach itself, step away from them, turn a corner, and vanish. Seconds later, the person would simply collapse, unconscious. Every single victim was found in a catatonic state, and on the arm of each one, written in a fine layer of dust, was the same message. We needed yours. A shattered mirror in Argentina, a vanished mountain in Nepal, stolen shadows in South Africa. 3 separate, impossible events. But what if they aren't separate at all? What if they are connected? These aren't invasions or attacks. They are subtractions. Reflections are being separated from their owners. Mountains are being removed from the landscape. Shadows are being extracted from reality. Across all 3 continents, at the site of each event, specialists detected the exact same low-frequency tone, a deep, vibrating hum that seemed to resonate from deep within the earth. When they amplified this frequency, they didn't just hear a sound. They saw a pattern. The frequency translated into a visual waveform, and that waveform drew a perfect outline. It was the shape of a human figure, standing with its hand extended forward, as if asking for something, a shape we have seen before. It's the same pattern detected in the forests of Finland in episode 7, the same one from the Atacama Desert in episode 8, and the same one that appeared in the sands of Saudi Arabia in episode 9. This is the connection. The world is not being invaded. It is being prepared, piece by piece. Reflection by reflection. Shadow by shadow. Mountain by mountain. Something is making space. Something wants room, and it is methodically clearing the way for its arrival. Thank you for watching. If you're as unsettled as I am, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next.